Lighten up.
Yep.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB, pros, news, whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding or otherwise, it is all on the tables. Now bringing Dave Palumbo. Dave, yesterday's episode of After Hours, truly one of those throwback episodes, which makes the cast of characters that we have and obviously some of the recurring, some of the new guests that we have so unique in the sense that you have some of the craziest stories from, the hardcore 90s. But in particular, yesterday's episode, you did a deep dive into some of the most hardcore gym trainers, gym goers from the 90s. Specifically, we talked about the Gold's Gym in Lynbrook, home to some of the most hardcore bodybuilders, hardcore lifters on Long Island. And I mean, it was just a smorgasbord of training stories from the 90s.
Well, I didn't even know, but, a lot of guys, Lyle Alzado trained there, Jerry Cooney, who was a heavyweight, boxing guy at the time, Jimmy the Bull, Jimmy Quinn trained there. The original gym was owned by Richie Baratheon, who was American combat training. He was actually on Johnny Carson, and we talked about that story. I actually went, if you go to YouTube and you YouTube Richie Baratheon on Johnny Carson, he was on there for like a 15-minute segment, which is unheard of on the Johnny Carson show. And he karate chopped like 17 slabs of cement. And he lit them on fire, but he was so hardcore they poured gasoline on the things, and he lit it on fire. And when he smashed through them, his gi caught on fire, and his whole hand burned. And when Johnny Carson shook his hand at the end, his skin came off on Johnny Carson's hand. Needless to say, they never had him back on the show again. But it was a very funny segment, and Jimmy was telling the whole story, Jimmy the Bull, because he was very good friends with Richie Baratheon. Matter of fact, Richie Baratheon. Jimmy loves to tell the story that Richie Baratheon, when he saw Jimmy train for the first time at the gym, came up to him and said, "Man, I've never seen anyone train like you. You attack the weights. I like you." And he gave Jimmy the key to the gym the first time he saw him. And Jimmy Pilecki had the key to that gym for forever after that. So just good, really, real fun stories. Some really great Lyle Alzado stories, too, from Frankie, the guy who used to own the gym in Lynbrook there. And it was great. And, Richard Rodriguez joined us also from last week. He's been out of jail now 2 weeks. He's been on the show 2 weeks in a row, and he loved it. He fit in just perfectly with all the guests.
He even told I'm actually going to clip this part of the show where he talks about a story relating to Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod. Yes. Yeah. So that was one that, with all the stories that you guys were talking about yesterday, I remember because, I watched the episode from the perspective, A, to be entertained, but then B, obviously, you and I collaborate on title, thumbnail, all the stuff, how we want to sell the episode. So I'm kind of watching it. And, obviously there was a story that Jimmy told about almost getting scammed by the Indian call center, which was hilarious in and of itself. That we clipped separately. That is available right now on the YouTube channel. But then also in the midst of all the stories that were told, I thought that one may have gotten lost just a little bit. Because I thought it was a very insightful story. It was a good story, but I felt in the pantheon of all the different stories you guys had going on, that may have gotten lost. So we'll clip that separately.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to give it away, so watch it. It was a good Alex Rodriguez story, though. Yeah.
Before we go to the questions, just wanted to give a shout out to Old School Bodybuilding, big time supporters of RxMuscle. They've sponsored our entire Olympia trips in the past. Been big time friends of the show. They just sent me this. This is one of their latest drops. Available right now on their website, osbbc.com. Good quality stuff. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where like, this is top quality gear. I mean, this is not the cheap
He sent
stuff
me
that,
every color of the rainbow. I wear them every day. I usually have
right.
it on. I mean, literally, I don't have any of my own clothes. I just wear old school bodybuilding. Someone just sent me this snake shirt the other day. That's why I'm wearing this today for Shogun Snakes from Canada. But I wear everyone's stuff. People send me T-shirts. Anyone who wants to send T-shirts, I'll wear it on the show to help promote it. I have no problem. I don't ask for money. I just want people to help, their business. But we do appreciate all the supporters, though.
No, I appreciate the entire team over there for sending this over. Again, check them out, osbbc.com. Let's go to the questions. The first two questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, any knowledge on ozone therapy for joint repair and full body inflammation relief, both IV and direct spot injections? Thank you for the disappointing show.
I've done ozone. Matter of fact, right in the corner of this room, I have an ozone machine and an oxygen tank. The oxygen gets turned into ozone from the machine. You can bubble it in water and drink the ozone. You could do ozone saunas, which I do have an ozone sauna at my house, although I haven't used it since I've gotten kids. Too much of a pain in the neck because they'll want to go in it. And you can have the ozone kind of just, bathe your body. It's a gas, don't forget. Or you could actually, pull it up into a syringe where the ozone goes into a big syringe and you can actually put it into your vein intravenously via a syringe pump that will deliver it over 20 minutes. And I used to do ozone infusions all the time back in the day when I didn't have kids. And even when I first had my cancer diagnosis with my thyroid, I did a few weeks of that. It was like a treatment. And it's great because when you hyperoxygenate the body and you infuse it with a lot of oxygen, it kills a lot of like disease pathogens from yeast and fungal things and bacterial infections in your body. But it also kills cancer cells. As far as joint relief and joint repair, I don't know if hyperoxygenating is going to necessarily help. Although, I mean, you might increase the delivery of nutrients and oxygen to the joints and connective tissue a little bit better. I don't know if you're going to like cure arthritis with it though. But it's one of these all-purpose benefits it'll do to you. And when you actually infuse it IV, like a good amount of it, you'll actually almost feel it in your lungs after. When your body's completely hyperoxygenated, you can actually feel and smell the ozone. You're breathing it out almost, and it's a pretty interesting therapy. It's a little scary for most people to do an IV infusion, and so most people will do it via drinking it or something like that. But I think it's most potent if you can do an IV of the stuff.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, all your protocols that you've laid out here are so basic. Are these really what you use with your clients?
This is the Dave Palumbo Experience app that this is being asked on. Okay, so these are the questions I get from the app members. And once again, if you'd like to join the Dave Palumbo Experience app, it's $29 a month. You can download it from your iTunes store or Android store. It's basically every video, everything I've ever written in one library place where you can see it. We do a question and answer every single week video that I put up that's separate, that doesn't get to be seen by the RxMuscle audience or anything like that. That's separate for the app members. And I answer everyone's questions in an open forum so everyone sees everyone's questions and all the answers. And so it's kind of like a learning experience on a regular basis. We also put up a workout every single week, so you can do a different workout. Now, I do have a lot of my diet plans, protocols, drug cycles in there as well. And yes, those are the templates that I use, but then I modify them given who I'm working with. So, I always tell people, and I think this is an important point to make here, that getting in shape, building muscle, okay, changing your health to be better than it was before is not a hard process. It's very easy, actually. It's just that no one knows the directions about how to do it. So I try to simplify things as much as possible to let people know, no, it's not hard. Here it is. The hardest part is doing it day after day after day, the regularity of it. So if I tell you, you got to, take these 2 pills and drink this drink and do this, and I give you like a list of things to do, and you don't do it every day, you're not going to get results, right? But if you do it every single day religiously and don't even think about, am I feeling it? Is it doing anything? And just do it. You're going to, at the end of, a year or whatever it is, time period, you're going to say, you know what? You're going to go for blood work. Your markers are going to be better. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're not going to get sick as much. That's what being I call the fitness or bodybuilding lifestyle is all about. It's about doing it all the time. It's not just doing it for 12 weeks and then doing whatever you want, going out and partying and eating whatever you want. That's not the bodybuilding lifestyle. The bodybuilding lifestyle is a way of life. It's a way of eating. It's a way of supplementing. It's a way of living that you have to adopt every single day of your life. And when you can incorporate that into your daily schedule, you will be amazed at the way your body will change and the things that will happen to your body in a positive sense. And I can't explain it to you any easier than that. I mean, it's not a hard process. The hard process is doing it every day. And a lot of people just don't have the focus to do that. And they don't want to do it. And that's fine because that's your personal decision. But if you want to be your best and look your best and feel your best and be your healthiest, it's got to be integrated into your life. And that's what I've done. Yeah, there's a lot of rituals I have, a lot of ways I'm eating, a lot of kooky things I do during the day that most people maybe just couldn't do it. But they become basically, I don't even think about them anymore. They're just part of the way I function. And because of that, I get good results. And this way, at the end of the day, I can't say, you know what, I could have done this a little better, or I could have eaten better, or I could have taken more stuff. If I get sick and die tomorrow, it's not going to be my fault. It's going to be because I'm doing everything I can do. And that's how you have to look at your life. If you have a goal in your mind and you want to look a certain way, if you got the right directions, follow them. If you can't follow them and say, well, it's too hard, or I couldn't eat all my meals, I wasn't feeling like that hungry yesterday, then the only person you have to blame is yourself at the end of the day. But if you give 100% to the process, I promise you will get great results. Doesn't mean you're going to win the Olympia. It just means you will maximize yourself, what your genetics are, what your abilities are. And that's, at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? We just want to be the best that we can be.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, the handle official_RxMuscle. Let's go to APOC the Champ. Besides your roid test, the roid test that you sell at davepalumbo.com, are there laboratories that can test gear and quantify dosage?
You know, there's people that ask me that all the time. And I'm assuming there probably are labs that will do that. It's not something you can go on the internet and look up and say, hey, I want to send you a sample of the steroids I've bought illegally to test. They're not going to do that. Now, if you happen to have a friend who works in an HPL, works at a lab that has an HPLC machine, where they can actually run the samples, then yeah, maybe you'll get it tested. But in my experience, I've been doing this a long time. Back in the early 90s when I first started using anabolics, the old excuse or the old thing that people would say to justify what they were selling would be like, I had this tested. It's 100%. In all my years, 25, 30 years, how long I've been doing, I've never seen a lab test from anyone that actually showed me the test results. I've only heard people anecdotally say, I got it tested. My friend got it tested. It's good. Don't trust anyone. Okay. So are there labs that do it? I'm sure. I don't think there's any labs, like I said, that you can just, legally go online, send your sample in, and they'll test it and send you the results. It doesn't exist. There are, once again, people who work at labs that probably do stuff on the side, but no. That's why these roid test kits that I sell at davepalumbo.com, and I don't make them. Bill Llewellyn makes them. I sell them because, I have a lot of people who, listen to me and they want to be able to see if their anabolics are real. And I got news for you. Probably of all the anabolics, I'd probably say 65% are real and probably 35% are fake out there. But with GH, it might be 50-50. And the clenbuterol, 50-50. So you could test clenbuterol, you can test growth hormone, you can test every anabolic steroid that's not a mixture of things, okay? Because I think a lot of these underground labs now are mixing things together and make combos because they know you can't test them. So I would only buy single item drugs. Test them and listen to me. I don't care if you bought them last year. If it's a different lot, test it again because these underground labs change from lot to lot a lot of times. And you know what? It's time, it's money, it's your career potentially. Don't waste your time. Test the stuff. It's a $20 test. It's not worth it to cheap out to not know that what you're taking is real. And the good thing is that the testosterone, cypionate and anthate, DECA, durabolin, and trenananthate, you could actually buy the semi-quantitative test that we sell that will actually tell you how much is in there. So there are some drugs that you can test for what they are, and then you can test them for how much is in there. And the clenbuterol tester, which I don't know why everyone doesn't buy that, because there's so many people who use clenbuterol. The clenbuterol tester does both in one tester. It'll tell you if it's real and how much is in there. So once again, check it out at DavePalumbo.com. I'm telling you, you'll thank me later.
Chubby Guns Melon wants to know, what creatinine levels would you consider to be, quote, dangerous?
Yeah, I only know the U.S. units. I don't know what the units are over there in like Australia or Europe. They have different units. But in the U.S., it's usually up to about 1.35. That's about the limit. You don't really want to go over that. Now, if you're 1.40, I wouldn't get crazy, okay? But if you're in the 1.5, 1.55, 1.6, 1.7, that's too high, okay? Now, there's things that can cause the creatinine to go too high? Yes. If you're taking creatine supplements, sometimes that jacks it up. If you train really hard the night before the test or the morning of the test, that could jack creatinine levels up a little bit too, not much. BUN, which is the other measure of kidney function, can absolutely go high from dehydration. So a lot of times, because we take fasting blood tests in the morning and you're dehydrated, BUN will be a little high. That's not as important. It's the creatinine you want to test. And if creatinine does come back high, my suggestion is also get something called cystatin C tested, because cystatin C is definitive for kidney health. So if you think something might be a little weird and it's not working, test your cystatin C. It's a separate test. You have to ask the doctor. It's a separate checkbox on the form, but it is a very accurate predictor of kidney health. But when creatinine when you see a trend of it going up and up and up, that's when you want to stop it. And that's when you want to use something like the detox program that I give out for free. If anyone wants, you can email me at huge285@AOL.com. I'll give you my 3-week detox. Do that. You incorporate the kidney stuff that I have on DavePalumbo.com, and that will bring your creatinine down. The thing about kidneys, and we've talked about this before, is that their regeneration is a little longer than liver regeneration. So sometimes it could take, if you have a high creatinine, we might get it down, but it might take you, 3, 4, 5, 6 months if it's high, like 1.7, 1.8. But you can get it down. The trick is to get it down before it gets too high. When you're over 2.3, 2.4, that's already danger category. So you don't want to get that high. You want to stop it before that. So if you're testing your blood, your blood creatinine every 6 months, it's never going to it's not going to go from normal to like 3, or anything like that in 6 months. So if you see it trending upward, that's when you want to do the detox.
Akshay Pandey, good friend of the show. Can you explain why someone uses supplements like EAA, BCAA when they can get all their essential and non-essential amino acids from Whey Isolate? Is it necessary to use those supplements, or, in his words, just a waste of money?
It's what I call a non-essential supplement. It's a luxury item. Okay, that means that yes, from the food you're eating, from the Whey Isolate you're using, you're going to get a ton of branched chain amino acids in there. But having said that, a lot of people like to supplement. In other words, if you're a 260-pound bodybuilder and you're eating your 6 or 7 meals a day and you're getting your 50, 60 grams of protein per meal, you might want to add a little more. A lot of guys, like when the intra-workout, a lot of people will use my Amino Evolved product. Sometimes, like during the day, if people are sitting around, if I'm sitting around, someone's going to do the TV show, I'm sipping on some aminos right here, because you know what? It's better than drinking juice or soda sometimes. So I'll just sip them. At least I'm getting more amino acids in my body. Sometimes people, go without meals and they're sitting around. A lot of times if I have a conference call on the phone, it's like going to be 2 hours. I'm drinking aminos the whole time, because I can't really eat in people's faces, although I do it on the TV show, Mr. G's Cookies. But you know what I'm saying? You can absolutely supplement with aminos, but it's like the person said, they're not essential if you're getting enough protein from your diet. It's a luxury item. Once again, I wish we had those back when I was competing, because I used to always sip something while I was training. I used to and I would drink these amino drinks that came from American Bodybuilding. It was basically mostly sugar in there, with the worst quality amino acids of all time in there. And so, but I did something, I just did it to do it. Nowadays, obviously, if you're dieting for competition, I wouldn't be drinking extra aminos all day long, because your body can turn that to energy. But off season, absolutely. I think it's a good way to get like extra stuff in your body without having to use unwanted calories. Because I know people that drink like sugar drinks all day. I'm like, why are you drinking those? It's just, even if you're off season, your body doesn't need sugar. It's the worst thing you can do for yourself. Don't waste it on sugar. Use an amino drink. At least they taste good if you get a good one like our Amino Evolved, and you can sip those all day, and at least you get extra protein into your body. Extra amino acids.
A few weeks ago, somebody asked if you were to compete today, who would you select as your coach? So, this question includes that, but it also includes, I'll re-encapsulate the question. If you were going to start your bodybuilding career, you had to pick one coach, which I know you kind of already answered, one rival, and one training partner. Who would it be?
What was the second one? Rival?
Rival. So if you had one bodybuilder today, you would say to yourself, all right, that fits the mold as who would be my natural
role
rival.
Model. Okay.
No, rival.
So you're against your enemy.
Oh, like who would be? Well, everyone's my enemy, right?
So basically, who would
in bodybuilding, it's an individual sport. Everyone's my enemy. Look, I would have to be a moron to say that I wouldn't want to coach myself, okay? Because I think I'm very, I know what I'm doing. If I was competing today, I would want Dave Palumbo as my coach because I'm a question answer. I ask a lot of questions. I want to know why I'm doing everything. I would use myself, okay? If I can't pick myself, I would probably use someone like, Chris Aceto because I get along very well with him. But having said that, now who would be my biggest rival would be anyone else out there. Ramy, he's Mr. Olympia. That's my rival, So Nick Walker, everyone, right? Those are my rivals. And then what was the third question? Training partner.
Training partner, yeah.
I would look. I don't know who trains the hardest nowadays, but I watched some of these Nick Walker videos, and this guy kicks butt in the gym. That's the way I trained, and that's who I would want to train with today.
What about a Joe Mackey?
Yeah, he trains heavy too. Anyone who pushes the limit in the gym, that uses good form too. I don't think I would do well with like a Branch Warren because even though he trained like really intensely. They were like really really crazy like with their form and stuff like that and once again it worked for them, but I probably would have gotten injured training with them because I would have tried to lift too heavy and I probably would have got hurt. So I like guys that lift heavy but that with controlled full range motion. So yeah, any of the guys that fit that description I would go for. But that I was a hardcore trainer. Training was the most important thing to me when I was at the peak of my powers. And I didn't have injuries. I always wanted to push the envelope. I always wanted to lift heavier. I wanted someone who can spot me and I trusted. So it'd have to be a big, freaky guy that actually has a lot of strength and likes to train and is not a huge volume trainer because I wasn't a volume trainer. I was a heavy, high-intensity training guy.
Let's go to Vincent Picarillo. Can you be on a keto diet without a gallbladder?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. Because it seems at first, no gallbladder, then how are you going to digest fats? Well, the gallbladder doesn't digest fats, okay? The digestive enzymes in your small intestine digest the fats, the lipases. What the gallbladder does is it takes the bile that the liver is producing and it concentrates it in one area. And when you eat a fatty meal, the gallbladder releases the bile into the intestinal tract. And what bile does, it's like soap. When you have oil on your hands and you wash your hands with soap and oil and it just comes off? Because what it does is it emulsifies the fats or the oils. It takes the oils and makes them into little tiny mini droplets that just kind of roll off your hands. Well, the same thing. What happens is the bile will emulsify all these fats, making them into little droplets, and then the digestive enzymes can work on them better. So if you would eat an enormously high-fat meal like a whole pizza pie, you'd probably, with no gallbladder, being able to concentrate that bile, you'd still be trickling bile out of the liver constantly because the liver is what produces the bile. It's not the gallbladder. But you wouldn't get enough it's like you wouldn't get enough soap to break up all those globules, and maybe the digestive enzymes wouldn't be able to digest all the fat efficiently. So you might get an upset stomach and stuff like that. But on a ketogenic diet, you're not eating enormous amounts of fat at every meal. You're eating a serving of fat. You might be eating 15 to 30 grams of fat per meal, but that's not really a lot. So your bile that your liver's trickling out and the digestive enzyme should have no problem digesting that. So ketogenic diet's great. Gorging on crazy high-fat cheat meals, that won't work so well.
Really good one here from a good friend of the show, Jay Risotto. Why, when taking medicines or supplements as a baby or child, everything is administered based on age or weight, yet Once we reach adulthood, it's, quote, standard. I'm 6'5", 260 pounds. Does a 5', 200-pound woman need as much fish oil or fat burner, etc., as I do?
Probably not. Now, the standard amounts that we recommend, like let's take my Omega Lyse formula, for instance, which is the essential fatty acid supplement I sell, which I believe to be the best on the market. I challenge anyone to show me a better one. But needless to say, if I recommend 3 pills twice a day to get 3 grams of fish oil, 2,600 milligrams of primrose oil, and then some omega-7 fats in there as well, that's standard. Now, if I'm 300 pounds, obviously, I probably need more than that. However, if I'm 300-pound bodybuilder, I'm probably eating a hell of a lot more food that would contain omega-3s in it anyway. So I'm eating 8 times a day. I'm eating 400 grams of protein. I'm eating salmon. I'm eating grass-fed beef. I'm eating omega-3 eggs. I'm getting extra fats in my food. Way, way more than the 120-pound woman who's probably eating 5 meals a day and eating 150 grams of protein per day. So I am getting my fats in, if I'm smart the way I'm eating. Now, if I don't eat any fat for some reason as a 300-pound guy in my diet, I only eat carbs and protein, I would absolutely need to take more Omega Lyse. I probably have to double the dose. But for most people, if they're smart about the way they eat, they understand they need to eat fat in their diet, and they're adding that extra fat. And because they're eating more food and more meals and higher protein, even if you didn't directly add fats, there's fat in everything you eat, right? You'd still be getting enough. So when we give supplementation, it's basically the bare minimum of what you need, just so that you don't go into a deficit. Now, with performance supplementation, we give more than that. So like the reason why V-Mineralize, my vitamin mineral mix, is 10 pills is because you're getting a very high dosage of the stuff in there that's going to be effective for someone who trains and uses a lot more chemical reactions go on in their body. They need more of those cofactors available. For a maybe 100-year-old or 90-year-old woman, maybe she doesn't need 10 pills a day. I might give her less. I might give her 3 pills twice a day. But for people who train, most vitamins and mineral supplements are water soluble, or basically meaning that if you take too much, you'll pee them out. I'd rather someone take in a little too much than too little, because once you're in a deficit, you know what happens. Your body starts hoarding. It doesn't understand that it's missing from the diet. It just gets nervous, like it's starving itself, or that the body is not getting what it needs. And a lot of times it won't efficiently do what you want it to do. So I kind of figured out what the dosages of things are, and we're constantly tweaking them because we're always learning more. Hey, you need more folate, you need more this, you need more, vitamin D3. And see, we're always changing the formulas around, but, it's an estimate. It's an estimate. And to answer the guy's question, yeah, bigger guys need more than little girls. But usually you can compensate by getting it through your diet and the food that you're eating.
Time for a couple of more questions. Miro DK. Interesting one here, because I don't know if this is something that I've ever heard you discuss, and that is pork. Why is pork never included in a bodybuilder's diet, even when it's very lean, even in the off season?
I don't even know why I stopped eating pork. I read some articles about, that they're not clean animals, and there'll be people that fight with me and say they are. I don't know. I have people who have pigs down the block from me, and these things live in mud and filth, and I don't know. Something in my brain doesn't want me to eat pork. I don't know. I like the taste of it. I ate it as a kid. I mean, if I had some, I probably wouldn't not eat it, but I don't eat it on a regular basis. I don't usually give it to people. I don't, if someone asks me, hey, Dave, I love pork. I have my own pigs. I slaughter them. I have all this pork available. There's nothing wrong with it. You can eat pork. I mean, if that's something you eat. I work with a lot of, people that don't eat pork, though, for whatever reasons, religious reasons or whatever. But if someone specifically said, hey, Dave, can I eat white meat pork? I really love it. I'm a hunter. I go catch it out. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think a lot of people have these, once again, whether it be religious because they're Muslim or kosher, or they just don't like pork, because they've read things about, them not being clean animals. I don't know. That it's kind of like it's been put out there. I'm sure if we were all starving and there was no chicken or beef, we would eat pork in 3 seconds. So I know I would. So maybe I'm a hypocrite, but that's just the way I am.
One more question from Fitness7373. Dorian recently posted that he had an insane trip using DMT. Now, I know Dave dabbled in some similar substances before. What is his wildest trip and experience with DMT? And if you can comment on, Dorian, because again, Dorian, in your conversations with him, he is a free thinker, a free mind, and he is experimental when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, he's done DMT. I think he's also done ayahuasca. I never did like DMT drugs. I've done ayahuasca, which is basically like a shaman puts together this like herb, this ayahuasca plant, and they boil it for like 24 hours, something like that, and they make these little drinks. And I don't know, the shaman determines for each person how much they need. I don't know how they do it. It's some kind of spiritual thing. And I've done ayahuasca twice. I think it was 2 times I did it. I think I did it twice. And I don't know if I've had trips, but you have some crazy visions for sure. And I had a lot of introspective things, but I thought this was the most interesting. The first time I did it in it was like a ballet or yoga studio in New York City. It was like on the 8th floor. And I was in the yoga, and it was so hot in this yoga room. And they got the shaman, they're burning incense in there, chanting, and the chanting is what kind of gets you tripping out a little bit. And you're kind of laying on like a yoga mat or something like that. And it was so hot in here, and I was sweating so bad that I was so uncomfortable that I wasn't really enjoying the experience as much. So I walked out of the yoga studio into the main part of the yoga gym, and there was these big bay windows, and I overlooked the windows, and I could look down and see the sidewalk. I must have been on the 8th floor or something like that. It was a really kind of cool view, actually, of the city. And I thought the stuff wore off already, because when the guy's chanting and you really start tripping more. When it's kind of calm, you might feel almost like a little weird, but you don't actually feel like you're actually like it's working anymore. And all of a sudden I look down and I have this vision that I am falling, from the window to the floor. And I see my grandfather, and my father's father, my grandfather, fell from a building. He was a bricklayer, and they were finishing up a building, and they were on the roof, and they were finishing the roof, and it turned out the cement was defective, and the whole building collapsed, and something like 20 men died or something like that. And my grandfather was like, I think, the only one to survive. A bathtub fell on top of him and shielded all the bricks from crushing him. He had a shattered pelvis. They said he would never walk, but of course, stubborn old Italian, he walked again. And I relived it in my mind as I was him, and I saw everything he was thinking in his head about I got to survive, I got a family, I got to support them, and it was the weirdest thing. It was like I was communicating with my grandfather. It was a crazy vision, but it was totally so real. And I called my dad up after I told him, and it was like what I described almost like was like exactly what happened. Obviously my father wasn't there when my grandfather fell. He was only a little boy. But it was a weird phenomenon. And you know what? They always say that a lot of times if something traumatic happens in someone's life, it could be passed through the genes. Because I have this my whole life, and my father had it too. This, for some reason, just fear of heights for no apparent reason. I never fell from anything. I never had any problems. And I don't know if it's from that, but it was a weird experience, and that's the best thing I could tell you without you. Everything else is kind of very personal type of thing, but that was a weird vision that I had that I always remembered. It was kind of eerie,
That is going to do it for this trippy episode of Ask Dave. We got to get.
I'm drinking
Dorian
my
back.
DMT. I'm going to have Tyler and I going to trip out after we get off this.
I think the next episode of After Hours, there's got to be an episode of After Hours where all of you are on DMT or some
there's got to be one person who's not.
Substance. Yeah. That would be the greatest, and we have a live episode. Oh, that would be phenomenal.
Someone told me that they felt that the After Hour show was like the Seinfeld, like a Seinfeld episode. They said
it really is.
They're like, Dave, you're Jerry. Jimmy the Bull is George Costanza, and Mr. G is Kramer.
That makes a lot of sense. That actually makes a lot of sense. We should have Tyler. You got to get the sound effect. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? You got to have that playing on. Yeah.
The question is, who's Newman? That's the question.
Yeah. You should get Dorian on just to talk about these trips, these experiments. Yeah. Some of these substances. I think people, again, you've talked to Dorian in the past on a couple of different elongated,
Yeah.
one obviously at the Dubai Muscle Show, and then you had him on for a 3-part interview.
Yeah, we should get him back.
We should get him on. Like, I think, look, obviously you've discussed everything there is to discuss as far as bodybuilding. But look, when you talk about someone like Dorian, what makes him so interesting is that he is so, how do I put it, like, diverse, right?
Well, he's extreme.
Bodybuilding career.
He's extreme. He went from either like being a bodybuilding monk, which is similar to what I did, although he achieved way more than I did, and then he became like this complete opposite. I'm not going to worry about anything because life doesn't even matter because we're living in a movie, and I believe the same thing. We're basically living out a movie. You enjoy your life, that kind of thing. Do what you want, and if you put your mind in the right direction, you're going to attract the things that you need.
Right.
And I completely, wholeheartedly believe that. I just want to say one thing about DMT, ayahuasca, these things. This is not doing ecstasy and going to a club. It's not an enjoyable experience. So don't think you're going to pop some of these and go out and party with your friends. It's a really, really emotionally draining, introspective type of thing. And a lot of times people throw up and they cry and they go. Luckily, it didn't happen to me, but a lot of people are. It's a very draining, experience. It lasts about 3 hours, and when you're done, you're exhausted. You're starving and you're exhausted. So, luckily it wears off like that, and you go from tripping to nothing. But it's not something you want to just do on a Saturday night because you think, oh, this is going to be cool. We can go hang out with a bunch of friends and do this stuff. You better be prepared. That's why it's good if you can find someone who leads these ceremonies, like these shamans that do these ayahuasca ceremonies. They're all over the place. If you just, probably through the internet, you can find out about them.
If you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. We have episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio, the After Hours podcast from yesterday, and then, of course, later on this week, Iron Rage with Lee Priest. So again, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below, and as always, we appreciate all of your support. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.